I'm Victoria Lane, 25 years old, a waitress working double shifts and a part-time marketing assistant in Boston. No one in my family knows I sleep less than 4 hours a night. They just know I'm fine, because that's what I always say. Tonight, like every month, I drove over an hour to have dinner with my parents. A family ritual I stopped finding comforting a long time ago. The yellow light above the dining table made everything look warm, until my mom set down a rent bill. My brother's. She said, soft as a breath, "You'll cover it, right? After all, he's family." I looked up. The light reflected off the water glass, casting a glow across his face. 32, unemployed, still smelling like beer and video games in that same old hoodie. And me? 2 jobs. 4 hours of sleep a night. Still trying to smile politely every time I come home for dinner. I thought she was joking. But then my dad set his fork down, the sound of metal hitting porcelain like a drumbeat of inevitability. He spoke slowly, voice low and heavy, like a hammer. "That's what good children do." The air froze. I could hear the wall clock ticking. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Blood rushed through my veins. Something long compressed, now looking for a way out. All my life, they'd told me to sacrifice, to do the right thing, to help your brother. I'd paid his tuition, covered his credit card debt, cleaned up every mess he ever made, and now they wanted me to keep paying, so he could keep living without responsibility. Knife met plate. A cold, dry clink sliced through the artificial piece. I looked at my dad. He didn't look up. Only when he wiped his mouth and set the napkin down did his voice rise again, low and steady. "That's what good children should do." The words dropped like a heavy stone, killing every other sound. I could hear my heartbeat, fast, uneven, caught between anger and disbelief. That word, good. The one they always used like chains to tie me to obligation. I pressed my lips together, tasting salt on my tongue. "He's 32, I said quietly. "I'm 25. I work 2 jobs. He plays games all day." My mom shot me a look, the kind that said, "Shut up if you want peace." My dad lifted his head, voice sharp. "Don't be disrespectful. Good children don't calculate like that." I smiled, thin, sharp as a blade. "If that's your definition of a good child, then maybe I'm not that kind." The sound of a chair scraping against tile. No one spoke, only my heartbeat, and the smell of cold, roasted meat. My dad stood up. In that split second, the air was sucked right out of the kitchen. Then he swung his hand. The slap cracked. Dry, clean, brutal. No one breathed. I touched my cheek, the heat spreading like fire. The pain wasn't just on my skin. It drove straight into my chest, not because of the hit itself, but because he actually did it, just to demand something that was never his to take. That was the breaking point. After years of swallowing everything, all the resentment finally broke loose. I wasn't the good daughter anymore, the one who always held the family together. I was done. I was ready to draw the line. I wasn't always like this. When I was 12, I stood outside my parents' bedroom door, palm pressed against the wood, feeling their voices vibrate through. My mother was crying. My father said, "If Vicky grows up knowing how to take care of this family, everything will be fine." I didn't understand then. I just knew I didn't want them to hurt. By 16, I was waitressing at a diner near our house. I kept tips in a white envelope labeled "for college fund." By graduation, that money was gone, paid for my brother's tuition. "Girls have to know how to sacrifice," my mother told me. "That's how families survive." I believed her. Every time my brother got into trouble, credit card debt, unpaid rent, DUI fines, I was called to fix it. "He needs time to find his path," they'd say. That time stretched across a decade. I worked through college, Not for myself, but to support the family. His first security deposit? I took a bank loan. His third fine? I worked double shifts for 2 months. Every time I asked, "When is it my turn?" they'd say, "You're the older sister. You have to understand." I understood. I understood that love in this family had conditions. There was one thing I held on to, a small tin box my grandmother left me before she died. Inside was a letter. "Don't let them take your dreams, child. I was like you once." I showed my mother. She smiled, took the box gently. "You're too young. Let me keep it safe." I never saw it again. For years, I told myself exhaustion was duty, that saying yes when I wanted to say no was what love looked like. I worked 2 jobs by 23, slept 4 hours a night, drank coffee until my hands shook, smiled when they asked how I was. "I'm fine," I'd say, but I wasn't. I was drowning, and I'd been taught to call it swimming. I kept asking the wrong question. If I disappeared, would they survive? It wasn't until that night, until the slap, that I asked the right one. If they disappeared, would I finally be able to live? But I didn't ask that question out loud. Not yet. I left without a word. Just grabbed my coat and walked out into the cold November night. No explanation, no apology, no looking back. The drive to Boston was over an hour. I didn't turn on music, didn't call anyone, just drove, hands tight on the wheel, watching highway lights blur past. My cheek still stung. Not from pain, that had faded, but from the realization that he thought he had the right. When I reached my apartment, I sat in the car for 10 minutes, engine off, listening to my own breathing. Inside, I didn't turn on the lights, just sat on the couch in darkness. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom, peeling paint, a too loud refrigerator. But it was mine, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel trapped. My phone buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. I picked it up. "Mom, are you home yet? Your father is very upset. You should apologize." I stared at the message, then placed the phone face down on the table. No reply, no explanation, just silence. It felt like the first real choice I'd made in years. Around midnight, more texts came. I didn't look. The next morning, I woke on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes. My neck ached, but my mind felt clear. I made coffee, opened my laptop. An email from my marketing manager. Reminder: your performance review is in 6 weeks. Big opportunity for promotion to coordinator. Be prepared. Rachel. 6 weeks. I needed that promotion. Not just for the title or raise, I needed it to be truly independent. If I failed, I'd be stuck working double shifts forever. A deadline. A ticking clock. I couldn't afford to keep drowning. Silence felt heavier than noise, but at least it was mine. 3 days later, I was working the morning shift at the café. Tuesday morning. Cold. Gray Boston sky. I was steaming milk when the door opened. My mother walked in, my brother behind her. No warning, no call. She didn't lower her voice. "You think you're someone special leaving like that? Your family needs you." The cafe went quiet. Customers turned. My coworker froze. I felt my face burn, not anger, but shame. "Your brother's about to be evicted," she continued. "You want him on the street?" My brother stared at the floor, said nothing. Didn't stop her. Just stood there like this had nothing to do with him. "I'm working," I said quietly. "Please leave." She pulled out papers, bills, notices, and slammed them on the counter. "If you have any conscience, you'll help." My manager stepped out. Rachel, 50s, calm, professional. "Ma'am, I need you to leave. This is a workplace." "Do you know what kind of daughter she is?" my mother snapped. Rachel gestured to the door. "Leave now, or I'll call security." My mother grabbed my brother's arm and walked out. The silence after was suffocating. Every eye on me. Rachel touched my shoulder. Take a break. Go to the back. I sat on a crate in the storage room, hands shaking. 10 minutes later, Rachel called me to her office. I had to file an incident report, she said, sliding paper across the desk. Cameras caught everything. I need you to sign. Incident report. Car IR Boss 1130. Clinical, factual, cold. I also contacted community police, Rachel continued. Not to press charges, just to create a record. If this happens again, you can request a no-contact order. You have rights here. I signed with a numb hand. That evening, I turned my phone back on. Texts flooded in. Relatives, family friends. Family comes first, Vicky. Don't let pride destroy relationships. Your mother is heartbroken. I read them all, then placed my phone face down. They didn't need me in the room to control me. They just needed me to believe I was wrong. I turned my phone off again. Not blocked, just off. I needed silence. The next days followed a new rhythm. Wake, work, home, sleep. No texts, no calls, no explanations. I returned to forgotten habits, making coffee and actually drinking it, browsing bookstores, rereading old novels. One afternoon at a quiet café, I opened my laptop. I didn't write an apology, I wrote a list. Every dollar I'd paid for my family over 10 years. Not to demand it back, just to see it clearly. Tuition, rent, loans, fines, overdraft charges from giving away money I didn't have. The numbers didn't matter. The pattern did. Every time they called, I said yes. Every time they promised it was the last time. It never was. Staring at the screen, something settled inside me. They would never change. But I could. The performance review was 3 weeks away. 3 weeks to prove I could focus. If I passed, promotion, raise, stability. If I failed, stuck forever. I spent evenings preparing, reviewing campaigns, building presentations, working until my eyes burned. But for the first time in years, I wasn't working for them. I was working for me. My apartment stayed quiet. The refrigerator's hum became comforting. Proof I was here. Alone. Safe. One night, I stared at the list. Thought about deleting it. I didn't. Not because I wanted revenge, not because I needed them to admit what they'd done, but because I needed to admit it to myself. I didn't need them to acknowledge the truth. I only needed myself to acknowledge it. A week later, I met my cousin Sarah at a bar in the North End. She'd texted, "Heard you're going through something. Want to talk?" Sarah was 28, lived in New York, visited family rarely, close enough to know what was happening, far enough to see it clearly. We sat in a corner booth. She ordered beer. I ordered water. "My mom says you're causing trouble," she said. I told her everything. The dinner, the slap, the café, the decision to cut contact. Sarah listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Do you know what happened to Aunt Anna?" I looked up. "Who?" "Your dad's older sister. She was the good daughter, too. Paid for the family for 20 years. Put your dad through school. Covered medical bills." My chest tightened. Then she got married. Wanted her own life. Told them she couldn't keep paying. Sarah took a sip. They called her selfish, ungrateful. She cut contact in 2008. Your dad acts like she doesn't exist. This wasn't the first time. The pattern had been passed down through generations. When Aunt Anna escaped, they just found a new target. Me. There's something else. Sarah pulled out her phone, showed me a photo of a handwritten letter. "From your grandmother. Aunt Anna kept a copy." I read, "Don't let them take your dreams, child. I was like you once, but I wasn't brave enough to leave. Be braver than I was." My throat closed. The tin box. The letter my mother took when I was 16. Your grandmother worked 3 jobs, Sarah said. Raised 5 kids almost alone. Your grandfather drank, gambled, disappeared. She held everything together until she died. I stared at my grandmother's shaky handwriting. No one talks about her like she was a person, just a duty, a sacrifice. I thought about my father, the way he'd stood at that table, the way his hand came down. Not cruel, desperate. Did you know about my grandfather? I asked. Sarah nodded. Your dad was the only son, dropped out at 16 to work. Your grandfather told him, that's what sons do. My father wasn't born to be controlling. He'd been controlled first. And instead of breaking the cycle, he repeated it. He had 30 years to learn differently, I said quietly. Sarah met my eyes. Yeah, he did. I didn't owe them anything, but I owed myself one final explanation. I scheduled it like a business meeting. One text. Saturday, 10 a.m., café on Main Street. Just to talk. My mother replied immediately, "We'll be there, thank you." Saturday came cold and bright. I arrived early, ordered coffee, sat by the window. Public space, neutral ground, witnesses. I wore a blazer, brought a folder, treated it like work. My parents arrived on time. My father looked grayer. My mother's face was tight, hopeful. They sat. My father spoke first. So, you're here to apologize? I looked him in the eye. Didn't look away. No, I'm here to tell you that starting today, I won't be paying my brother's bills. I won't answer calls asking me to help out. And I won't be coming to family dinners. My mother's face crumpled. Victoria? Family is people who love you, I said steadily, not people who use you. My father stood, chair scraping. We raised you. You owe us. I didn't stand. You did raise me, but that doesn't mean I owe you my entire life. I opened the folder, pulled out 2 papers. The first, the list. Every payment over 10 years. Not amounts. Just dates and descriptions. I slid it across. This is what I've paid. I'm not asking for it back. I just want you to see it. My mother stared, hands trembling. Then the second document. Incident report. IR Boss 1130. This is from when you came to my workplace. Security cameras, witness statements. If I wanted, I could file for a restraining order. My father went pale. I won't, I continued. But understand, I'm not a child anymore. This is public. If you touch me again, I'll call police. I already have a record with them. Silence. My mother reached across. Victoria, please. There's one more thing. I told them about my brother, the job at 26, how he quit after 2 weeks. Remember what you told him, Mom? You don't need to rush. Family will take care of you. Her eyes filled with tears. You didn't protect him. You disabled him. I was afraid of losing him, she whispered. You were afraid of losing control, I corrected. I took my napkin, folded neatly, and placed it on the table, then gently took hers from her lap, smoothed it, folded it carefully. You taught me to be tidy, to be proper. I looked at them both. I learned, but I'm using it for myself now, not for you. I stood, put on my coat. My mother grabbed my hand. You'll regret this. I looked down at her hand, once comforting, now confining. I gently removed it. If being a good daughter means sacrificing my whole life, then I guess I'm not one. I picked up my folder. If that's what you want, good luck finding one. The bell chimed as I opened the door. Cold air rushed in. I didn't look back. I was done playing this game. I blocked their numbers the next day. Not from anger, from necessity. I needed silence more than I needed closure. The first few days felt strange, empty. My phone didn't buzz with guilt-laden texts. No voicemails asking when I'd come to my senses. No Sunday dinner reminders. For the first time in my adult life, my calendar belonged entirely to me, but loneliness came anyway. Not the painful kind, the kind that tears you apart from the inside. This was different, unfamiliar. The loneliness of someone who'd spent so long being needed that she'd forgotten how to just exist. I wasn't used to evenings with nothing to fix, no crisis to manage, no one else's mess to clean up. I'd built my entire identity around being needed, and now, suddenly, I wasn't. Some nights, I'd sit on my couch and stare at my phone, turned off, face down on the coffee table, and wonder if I'd made a terrible mistake. One night, 3 weeks after the confrontation, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The radiator clanked. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, someone laughed. A sound from another life. Did I do the right thing? The question circled in my mind like a bird looking for a place to land. Then I closed my eyes. And for the first time in years, maybe since I was 16, I slept 8 hours straight. No dreams about them. No waking at 3 a.m. in a panic about missed calls. No reaching for my phone in the dark. Just silence. Deep. Unbroken. Safe. When I woke the next morning, sunlight was streaming through the thin curtains. The apartment was still. The refrigerator hummed its steady rhythm. The clock on the wall ticked softly. Not oppressive anymore. Just marking time that belonged to me. I didn't feel happy, exactly. But I felt clear. Like I'd been walking through fog for years and finally stepped into open air. Silence wasn't punishment. Sometimes it was the reward. 6 months passed. I got the promotion. From assistant to coordinator at the marketing firm. Rachel called me into her office on a Friday afternoon, and when she told me, I almost didn't believe it. "You've been different these past few months," she said, leaning back in her chair. "More focused, more confident. Whatever you did, keep doing it." I thought about telling her the truth, that I'd cut off my family, that I'd chosen myself for the first time in my life. Instead, I just smiled and said, "Thank you." The raise wasn't huge, but it was enough. Enough to quit the late serving shift, enough to finally breathe. I kept the morning shift at the café, though. I liked the early light through the windows. Liked the regulars who knew my name. Liked the simplicity of making something with my hands and watching someone's face brighten. One morning, a few weeks after the promotion, my manager pulled me aside. "You look different," she said, studying my face. I thought about all the ways I could answer. About the confrontation, the blocked numbers, the 8-hour nights of sleep, the absence of guilt sitting like a stone in my chest. Instead, I just smiled. I've been sleeping more. It was the simplest truth, and somehow, the deepest one. That afternoon, I sat in the park near my apartment, drinking takeout coffee, watching the late autumn sun sink behind the buildings. I set the paper cup down on the bench beside me, a small sound like porcelain on wood. The same sound as that night. But this time, it was mine. My phone buzzed. An email from Sarah. "Aunt Anna wants to meet you. She heard about what happened. She says she'd like to talk. If you're ready." I stared at the message, something warm and unexpected spreading through my chest. Not everyone who leaves stays alone forever. Some of us find each other. I thought everything was over, until the letter arrived. 2 years later, I was 27. Marketing manager at a small agency in Boston. My own office. Nothing fancy, but mine. My own team. My own projects. Life was stable. Quiet. I still met Sarah for drinks every few months. I'd had coffee with Aunt Anna 3 times. Each conversation peeling back another layer of family history I'd never known existed. People who understood the journey didn't need you to explain it. Then, on a Tuesday in October, a letter arrived. Not an email. Not a text. An actual letter. handwritten, my name and address in shaky blue ink. From my mother. I stood in my apartment hallway holding it, my keys still in the door, and felt my heart kick against my ribs. For a long moment, I considered throwing it away unread. But I didn't. I made tea, sat at my kitchen table, opened it slowly. The handwriting was worse than I remembered. Trembling, uneven. Ink smudged in places as if the page had gotten wet. Victoria, I'm sorry. We were wrong. Your father and I have talked, and we both know we failed you. We thought love meant control. We were wrong. I don't expect you to forgive us. But if you're willing, I'd like to meet. Just to talk. No pressure, no expectations. I understand if you say no. Love, Mom. I read it twice, then set it down. No tears, no anger, just a strange, distant calm. I thought about ignoring it, about letting the silence continue, about protecting the peace I'd fought so hard to build. But then I thought about Aunt Anna, about my grandmother, about all the women who'd carried this weight and never put it down. I decided, yes, but on my terms. 2 weeks later, I drove back to the town where my parents lived. The leaves were turning, gold and red against a bright blue sky. It should have felt like going home. It just felt like driving. I didn't go to their house. I called my mother from the road and told her to meet me at the cafe on Main Street. The same cafe where I'd confronted them 2 years ago. She arrived 10 minutes early. I watched her through the window. Older, smaller, shoulders hunched like she was carrying something heavy. When she saw me, her face did something complicated. Relief, fear, hope. She sat down across from me, hands folded on the table, and for a long moment neither of us spoke. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, she said finally, her voice hoarse. I know that, but I wanted you to know I regret it, all of it. I stayed quiet, letting her words settle. Your father does too, she continued. He's not good with words, but he wanted me to tell you. I nodded slowly. I believe you. Her eyes brightened with something like hope. But that doesn't change what happened, I added gently. Her face fell. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a check, the exact amount I'd paid for my brother's rent 2 years ago. It was a lie. He'd never paid me back. But I wanted this to end my way. He sent this back to me last year, I said, sliding it across the table. I don't need it. You keep it. Or give it to him. Between adults, no one owes anyone. My mother stared at the check, then at me. Do you forgive me? I shook my head gently. I don't know. Maybe someday. But today, I just want you to know, I'm not angry anymore. I'm just clear. I stood, reaching for my coat. She grabbed my hand, desperate, trembling. Please, don't go like this. I looked down at her hand, the hand that had once stroked my hair when I was sick, the hand that had also held me back every time I tried to leave. I didn't pull away harshly. I just lifted her hand gently and placed it back on the table. Then I did something small, something symbolic. I reached for her napkin, crumpled and twisted in her other hand, and gently took it, smoothed it out, folded it neatly, the way she'd taught me as a child, placed it beside my own folded napkin. You taught me to be tidy, I said quietly, to be proper, to keep up appearances. I looked at her. I learned. But I use those lessons for myself now, not for you. I walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard her voice, small and broken. Victoria. I stopped. Didn't turn around. Take care of yourself, Mom. Then I pushed the door open. The bell chimed. Cold autumn air rushed in, carrying the smell of wood smoke and fallen leaves. I stepped outside into the sunlight. On the drive back to Boston, I thought about Aunt Anna, About Sarah. About my grandmother working 3 jobs and dying quietly. About the 25-year-old girl sitting in darkness 2 years ago, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Now I knew the answer. I smiled. Not bitter, not triumphant, just peaceful. And let the words form in my mind like a closing line. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means they no longer have the right to define my worth. I am Victoria Lane, and I am free. This time, silence wasn't absence. It was power. Fade out.